Okay, welcome back to the FauxCast. This is episode 16.
Episode 16.
And it's not a very happy podcast tonight, is it?
Well, no, there's some sadness
Some
today
bad news.
for sure. Yeah.
Why don't you start us off?
Well, I don't know if everybody who watches the FauxCast watches any of the other FauxPop podcasts, but there's a podcast that I do with my cousin Shane called The Shameless Hussies. And this FauxCast is dedicated to him because this weekend he shifted to another place, and what I mean by that is he passed away, and it's pretty sad actually. I actually had some emotions today that, and I don't feel bad about that. It's just like, man, dude, I'm gonna miss Skyping you and having that dialogue with you.
Well, the thing that I said to my my class today, I actually use it as an example of something, how this is a totally new memoriam in a way.
Yes. That
you have, a few hours. Would it be as many as 7 hours or something?
Yeah, I think we had 7 episodes. Or 6
so
or
7 hours of his completely uncensored thinking and feelings, and and in a funny way, it's something that people would love to have, that they maybe would never have thought of that they would love to have.
Absolutely. I'm very, very, it's one of those things where it's a catch-22 in a sense. Like, it's like, I'm really, really happy we have that, It's not that you have that because you're anticipating this, which often,
oh God, no.
Which is often, I don't know, death is one of those things that people react in whatever way they want to react. Obviously, I'm not going to one way judge or one way is better than the other, but oftentimes we'll use things like that. Well, it's a good thing we had that, as if almost to rationalize or to bring some comfort, I guess, to the situation. And I guess that's okay too. I'm not saying that's a negative.
And two, what I think is interesting is it's entirely possible, like ironically or coincidentally, I guess more correctly, I was reading today in the paper about a guy who had a blog about his cancer battle, and he died. And they always say battle. Yeah. Did you read about that?
Well, is this the guy from Vancouver?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I hate to call it a battle. It's not a battle. It's just he has cancer, and he's trying to, eke out as much survival as he can.
Yeah.
And a significant portion of his last days he spent blogging, and now that's there. And I think that's about as good a thing as someone could leave behind right now. Well, if there's not much else they can do,
Absolutely. I totally agree. Like, I found myself today, going through Facebook posts and,
right.
And those are the things that would trigger tears. Actually, it's not so much the thought of my good friend and cousin, and it's not so much his death that conjures any emotion. It's when you read those things that he said, 2 weeks ago, or
well, they take on significance.
Yeah, they
potentially.
Yeah.
So today we want to talk about death. Do we want to? We wish we didn't have to talk about it, but it's sure is every bit as valuable as life in a way, isn't it?
Well, it's
something we have to deal with.
It's a part of our life right now anyway.
But forever, even.
No, possibly, yeah.
Hustle talk. Well, let's put it this way. Right now, Kurt Weill's singularity is not near enough to stop us from thinking about death.
That's right.
So I want to know when you first started to think about it, or when do you remember the first person you had around you that died, or what your earliest thoughts about death were?
Yeah. Well, I can't say as I've ever had really a fear of it. And that probably comes from my upbringing, just because, at that time it's like, oh, well, it's just a better place, which personally, I don't think that's a good way. It's not a good way for me to think about it, because it's more about living life now and whatever's on the other side. Well, I guess we'll find out.
Yeah. It's better to go with the known than
the
unknown.
But and I think the fear of the afterlife and all that is something that dictates a lot of decisions and unnecessary emotions, in my opinion. Again, I'm not judging.
Well, you can judge. It's your podcast.
Well, it's our podcast, and I find it interesting that how I react to death initially. And the earliest example I can remember is a young girl that I'd be in grade 7, I think. and a young girl that I kind of liked, or like she, I was kind of, I don't know if she was just having pity on me or actually making fun of me by pretending to be my girlfriend.
Pretending to be a girlfriend.
Or whatever. Like, I always got the sense it was like she was pretending, but she was someone I was kind of close to. And you know how you have girlfriends. So she was my girlfriend. She was a girl I kissed, back behind the
nice
swing set or whatever. And she was riding her bike and got hit by a car, and she passed away. And I remember the phone call coming to my house.
Really? They called your house?
Yeah. Well, I guess maybe it was just because we were all in the same grade, or somehow there was a phone call to our house, and my mom answered, and my mom got off the phone, and then my mom told me, "Hey, Elizabeth, just died." And my immediate, without hesitation, I went, "Well, it's about time."
What?
Horrible, right?
That's weird.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So of course I don't mean that, and it's
no. You just are responding however you respond.
That's right. And this might sound insensitive.
Well, of course it sounds insensitive.
It sounds horribly insensitive. And of course it is if I really meant that. And of course
you didn't.
And of course I didn't. But I find that that's usually my kind of reaction. Like, it's almost more of an initial something stupid like that. Probably because it just takes you by surprise.
Breaks
right?
attention. By making
it's like,
a joke.
it's just like it's like you're not prepared for that ever. Well, maybe you are if someone's sick for a long, long time.
But certainly not in grade 7. Like that.
In grade 7, and even in with Shane there, it's just you're not expecting it, and
no, it's something that laughing makes sense in a way.
Yeah,
and so does crying.
Yeah.
Break the tension. I remember when I was in grade 7, maybe, or 6. There was a little fella at our school who passed away, and he had, I've forgotten the name of the disease, hemophilia.
Right.
And I've probably told you this story before. He died, and it was a school issue. Like, it wasn't something that was I should back up, because of course it is a family issue, but everyone in the school had a response, right? Because here was a little guy that, he would wear a helmet to school. You remember the old style of a kid who everyone is watching out for and everyone is looking out for, and you watch for this boy, and everybody knew, and it was sort of like he was everybody's little brother in that regard, right?
Yeah.
And that happens with kids who have compromised issues in health or whatever, and you hope that everyone's helping.
That's right.
And when he passed away, and I don't remember much about him passing away, but this is the guy who I told you about, whose sister did a speech about his death and how he impacted on her life. And then I had to do the speech right after her, and my speech was about comedy.
Right. hard to follow that.
And she did her speech, and there wasn't a dry eye in the house. And my reaction to that story about his death, which had been, years prior.
Yeah.
But my reaction to that was, oh, crap.
Right.
Now what am I going to do?
Sure.
But
yeah,
it's funny how when someone dies, your response isn't necessarily real because you do what you think you have to do in a situation.
Yes, you definitely observe that in yourself and other people.
Yeah.
We as humans definitely... Maybe it's even just more our culture than anywhere else. I don't know enough.
Yeah, what am I
other,
supposed to do
other
here?
culture, but it's like it just always seems very awkward.
Yeah.
In fact, when I got the news today at work, it actually hit me emotionally, and I shed some tears, and I had to walk down the hall, and someone said, "Hey, you got a runny nose," and they noticed I was crying, and
then they got really quiet.
They got really quiet. And then another person came running out, bubbly with some news and all this and that.
Yeah,
right?
donuts,
whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then anyway, so I just dismissed myself, went downstairs for a few minutes, and when I came back up, the person that was all bubbly was, "Oh, I'm so sorry, that was bad timing." And what I said to her was, "Don't ever apologize for being happy."
Yeah.
That but it's funny that we feel like we can't be happy now because.
We have to adjust our date.
We have to adjust
the situation that happened to someone we don't know.
Yeah,
because you know him.
Yeah, and that actually, you know, it was like, you don't have to adjust that. Like, you should be happy. That's actually good. you
Yeah.
know, don't like, because you go to funerals, and that's something that's always troubled me about funerals, is you go to funerals and you see the people get out of the car all happy and
then they go
joking
in.
around. And as soon as they get to the door, it's like, you know,
Yeah, they
and
put
I
the
understand
funeral
that
on.
because you don't want to be insensitive. And maybe that's what we've created is this expectation of, I don't want to be insensitive. Even as we're doing this podcast, there's part of me going, oh, maybe I shouldn't say that because it's insensitive.
Say what?
Just anything, some of the things I might say, because what if that sounds insensitive to people that are right in the thick of it right now?
Right.
You know, should I even put this, we even put this podcast out right now? Isn't that being insensitive? But yet it really doesn't matter. It's just us talking about it. And
They're doing the same thing.
yeah, and it's not insensitive, you know, I don't think. But that's funny that
Jeez, it never occurred to me that people would think it was insensitive.
no,
Never thought of that.
but people are more sensitive in these times. And
Yeah, but I'm thinking, what is it that you would say or I would say that would be anything but, you know, our real thinking about a situation like this that it isn't legitimate, right? What would you be saying that's not actually what you're thinking that you would say to somebody who was here, you know?
right.
Like, let's say
Yeah.
somebody like a brother or a family member who is closer to him than you. And if that person was here, would you say, you know what, I'm not going to talk about this?
No, if they were here, we would talk about it. And
Yeah.
Absolutely true.
But we're not talking about him.
No,
we're
no,
not
no.
talking about the circumstances or any of that. I guess that's not the point.
I'm establishing as well. We're talking generally
Just our thoughts on it.
on death and how we react to it.
Yeah. I remember in grade 9, there was a girl who was in our class, and she went home sick with the flu, and she died of Reye's syndrome. If you remember Reye's syndrome, if you took aspirin and had a certain kind of flu, you could die.
Right.
And this girl died, and I remember standing outside my history class, and someone came up and said, "Did you hear about, you know, so-and-so?" And I said, "No, what?" And they said, "Well, she's dead, and she's from the class." And I remember thinking, I don't, like, it was like I immediately filled her place in the class. You know what I mean? Like, it was, and I don't mean it, I don't mean like I thought, oh, she didn't exist anymore, but I remember just thinking, like, she's not here. And I thought it profoundly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's not here.
Yeah.
She's gone.
Yeah.
And I didn't have, and I was friendly with her. I wasn't close to her or anything, but I just remember thinking it was immediately an understanding of the absence of this person.
Sure.
And the reality of that. And for me, it was something that I thought, okay, now I'm going to focus on, wow, Reye's syndrome. Like, it was sort of like the material around it.
Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah. That you say that. Like, death can be a great catalyst. I was thinking that today. Like, there's something about death that causes us, as when you're close to somebody, to rise up in a certain way. Whether it lasts or not, it's another question, but it creates this kind of sobriety within yourself that makes you go, you know what he was fighting for, I'm going to fight for it. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, it's like you align yourself. So maybe that's what you're talking about. Like, you're all of a sudden aware of the disease.
Well, I just
weren't
remember
thinking
thinking
about before. And if you're close to her, you might actually go, I'm going to eradicate this disease.
I've actually said something even dumber than what you're saying is noble, classic us and you and me. I was actually thinking, oh man, there's another thing you have to think about if you get the flu. What?
Right.
But when I realized what I'm saying didn't sound like a good thing, and I meant it as a good thing. But
that's
what
right.
I'm saying is I immediately thought, she's not here.
Right.
And I thought it so deeply, like, you know, you're a kid and you kind of think that somebody's just gone and you don't, you know what I mean? Yeah. Oh, they'll be back. And it's just kind of something you forget. But I remember just thinking, she's not here.
Right. It kind of
it hit me.
And there must be a thing, you know, because children, like, really, I wonder when we first get that conception, or when we first, where it kind of clues, when we clue into that as kids. Like, it's obviously,
I don't know.
Like, obviously not, it has to be further on, you know, than say 1 or 2 years old, like, or.
Well, I think what happens is that we don't realize it.
Right.
And then I think a lot of times when people cry, obviously they're crying for themselves.
For sure.
But they're also crying at the uncertainty of how to respond, or what does it mean with this person not here?
Yeah.
And for me, the realization of that girl not being there wasn't so deep because I didn't really know her that well.
Yeah.
But the realization of it was like this kind of wow, like the total absence of a person from the daily existence, and this whatever was going to happen doesn't have her, and then you kind of think about all the connotations of that and spin them out, and that's what happens all in a moment.
Right.
But if it was your wife or your child, then the connotations are so deep and so far, and so the impact on you is so. Wow, this is going to be like every meal, every glass of water, every holiday, and all these different layers start to just hit you all at once.
Yeah, and people maybe
it's overwhelming.
It is overwhelming, and unfortunately, a lot of people stay stuck there too, right? With those kind of thoughts, which again, I don't want to. It's a tough thing, and I would like to think maybe it shouldn't. I would like to think that maybe it doesn't have to be so tough. You know what I mean? Like maybe. Like, is it really that we're reacting to something? What am I trying to say? Is it more the expectation of reaction that we're fulfilling an obligation, as opposed to the reality of the situation? You look at other cultures, but it's interesting with other cultures. I almost find it even more of a pattern. Like, for example, like when you see things in the Middle East, right? Like there's a real demonstrative
outward show of grief,
and everybody has a certain, you know what I mean? It's almost like the wailing and all of that,
or at least the stereotype of it that we see.
That's right. And again, I don't have experience there, but
right.
When you look at that, it's almost like, oh, this has happened. This is what we do. Boom, 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 and you wonder if actually, like, even though it appears to be emotional, I wonder if it's less emotional than what we put ourselves through.
Well, I can comment on. I had a person who had been my best friend in high school, and we didn't stay in huge contact, but he died at 43 in 2007 when I was in Germany, and when I found out that he was dead, and I hadn't seen him in a while, or maybe a long time. I saw him probably yearly, but when we were in high school, we were super close, and I didn't shed a tear or anything, but I just remember feeling like I literally felt like, oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it was almost like I didn't have the response, and I was telling my wife, and the way that it struck me was, it was nostalgia, that it wasn't, and this is no disservice to him, but it was more like we really aren't kids. And so in a way, his death was the death of this sort of fantasy that maybe we all have, or a way of looking at your childhood or your friendships, and you think, we'll always have him, we'll always have me, no, we won't.
Yeah.
And the realization that even if he wasn't dead, he is dead, and so am I, and that our pasts are dead, and that all we have are the new things that we are having right now, and I'm not having them with him. And that was the thing that struck me was, wow, I really wasn't participating with him in a now. I was participating with him as an 18-year-old in my memory.
I agree. Yeah, like definitely the emotion and any kind of thoughts about death are all to do with nostalgia and memory, whether they're just like in recent times or in the past. It has nothing to really do, the way we react, I don't think really has anything to do with now, except for the now. This has happened, and then you start creating these hypotheticals and fears like you stated, and that creates a whole other set of emotions.
Well, it would be different if it was someone who was intimately with you on a daily basis, and I have no experience. Thank God, I don't know anything about that yet, and I don't look forward to experimenting with that.
No, me neither.
But I mean, you talk to someone who's lost, let's say, a child, and you're seeing a well of grief that will last forever. In a way, people get past elements of it, but there's something there that stays
for sure
forever.
Absolutely.
And it's that loss of potential, right?
Yes.
If it's someone that you're not super close to, the potential maybe isn't the issue, because you had drifted apart.
That's right. And you're not there to see that potential
on a daily
and then,
basis.
In this current situation, that's definitely an element for me, because I see a guy that's bright and has lots of great ideas and full of passion and enthusiasm and wants to change the world. And so, yeah, to me, that sadness is, on one hand, I know that he's at peace.
Well, it's the Socrates line.
Yeah, and you can state that if you like in a second. Is that knowledge that's actually I actually feel peaceful in that regard. But where the frustration or emotion is like, but damn it, you had so much you could still do.
Yeah, and the truth is,
that's my selfishness, really. In a way,
I wouldn't call it selfishness.
Well, it's like
you're adding up the possibilities again, and when you line them up, you see that they could go further, and they don't. They stop now.
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
and you're thinking that's a loss, but it's a loss that you're projecting.
Yeah,
that's the funny thing about it.
That's exactly
you're creating
that's
that
right.
loss.
It's this hypotheticals, right? It's these hypotheticals.
Yeah,
yeah,
and that's part of this uncertainty that makes us have the response that's emotional, because. What is it? Is it loss? Is it, is there something I didn't know? What could have happened? What could it have been?
Yeah. And truth be told, let's take death out of the equation and out of this conversation for a section. That kind of thinking, if we're all honest with ourselves, is something that can really paralyze us.
Absolutely.
And that, when you see that kind of stuff setting in, there's a line I heard in a song today that, ironically, I suppose, not ironic, it's the wrong word, but anyway, it was a redemption song. And the line that stuck out was, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. Only you can free your mind.
That's something that you ascribe a meaning to it that somebody hearing that wouldn't necessarily see.
Right.
Because I know that's one of your go-to songs.
Well, no, I like that song a lot, but that line just really jumped out at me, because it really... what we're talking about, those hypotheticals and getting stuck there, that's like it's like a prison, and that's what I mean by emancipation.
I can't agree 100%. Right. Let's not see it like a prison. I know what you're saying, and I agree with the principle of it, but as opposed to seeing it like a prison, I would say it's like this. It's like building a bridge to an unknown other side of something. Mm-hmm. So you might not need a bridge to there,
right?
And you're building it. But maybe that's not where it's going.
Right. So you're wasting a lot of energy.
Right. And that's the way it looks to me.
Yeah.
That
it's a good way to put it.
It could be slavery if depending on your response, I guess.
Yeah.
But the way I see it is, and I had this happen when my wife and I went to Italy, and I'm not going to go in too deep, and you know what I'm not going to go too deep into, but when we were in Italy, we went to a place where we were there with our kids, and it was this trip that we'd had this year of change. And when we got to this particular place, I had this completely overwhelming sense that if I died here,
right,
this is good.
Yeah,
I've done enough stuff. I don't need to keep building a bridge to an unknown destination, because I've made it to a place.
Sure.
And I had to realize this is a happy place to be, and I can't keep thinking.
Yeah.
When the next thing and that's what we so often do is the next thing. It's going to be the next thing, and then when someone dies, I lost that next thing. Well,
right.
If that's the value, then you're crazy.
Yeah.
Because your value has to be the thing that you're in.
That's right. I agree with you.
And so you and I have talked about this a million times. And I looked at my wife, and she looked at me, and I said that to her. And we both totally locked into that, and both realized it at the same moment, and agreed that we're 100% in the minute that we're in, by that pool, in that farmhouse in Umbria, and the sun is coming down, and you smell the grapes, and the next thing that I'm eating in my mouth right now is that's what the minute is all about.
Yes.
And if the one after that I choke to death on that beautiful piece of fusilli, then that's fine, because the minute I had is the top minute I'm ever having.
That's right.
And you look at, your cousin or my friend who passed, or any of the people, and you say, okay, it is sad.
Yeah.
But guess what? We had those minutes with those people.
Oh, yeah.
And those people had those minutes, and nothing is guaranteed to any of us. And you say, that, that's right for right now.
Yes.
That's what it is. That's the thing that
what's done is done, right?
Yeah.
And you're still left with all of the unknowns that were there before or after. Like those unknowns are the same.
That's exactly right. They don't change.
They don't change based on
just to clarify, meaning nobody knew what was going to happen, who was going to go here, who was going to go there.
Exactly.
Right.
So nothing's different in that regard, except there's one less, maybe chess piece in the game or something or whatever.
Well, the possibilities certainly have changed.
The possibilities change, but they're still. But they're always changing anyway, I guess is what I'm getting at.
And the other thing to say is that for the person who has passed away, there is nothing but peace, regardless of what kind of peace it is.
I agree.
It's like, this is where I'll get into the Socrates thing. And I am completely paraphrasing, and I might be wrong, but they're going to kill Socrates. And he says, if you kill me and all of the religion that we have in our Greek culture is true, I go to paradise.
Right.
If you kill me and none of it's true, I am at rest and I'm in paradise because I'm not in the suffering of the world.
Yeah.
So no matter what you do, when I die, I win.
Yeah.
And in a way, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
It's
sure.
We win.
Yeah. Yeah.
One way or another.
One way or the other, we do it. Yeah.
You're at peace.
You're at peace. Yeah. And I suppose, I wrote something today. And again, it's that catalyst, when these things happen, it does cause you to take pause and think about things.
Well, you have to make some kind of reaction because it brings some things close to your head.
And so I thought about the things that Shane was fighting for, and the biggest thing was love. He wanted love. He thought it was the greatest thing. I agree. It's, whatever, the undefinable love that we were trying to define in our dialogue, which we never would define.
It's impossible.
That kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And it was like, and I was thinking about, because as far as what he's is right now, and he's at peace. I have no doubt about it. I feel that is actually a very calming, wonderful, peaceful thought.
Well,
and
the thing that about anyone who dies is that everyone who dies is, if we look at it as scientifically, their animus, the energy that whatever it is that motivates the person to be a person, it returns to something.
Sure.
And it joins into a larger something. It becomes part of a larger energy of some sort. So if we turn into worm food, at least we're worm food and we become part of that and whatever.
So what you were saying there about Socrates reminded me of this thought, what I was going to say was, as it is in the heaven, which some people would say would be the afterlife, so may it be on earth, right? And that's the peace that you're talking about, what Shane was fighting for was that peace that he's found now, that he could have it in this world, in the midst of all the conflict and everything else, right?
Yeah.
And so I guess that's what the kind of stance, you kind of take, or reaffirms that. It's like, what, like, it's too bad that we have to get to that point to find that peace. And, let's, as a humanity and as brothers and sisters in this world, let's continue to fight to have that kind of stability and peace.
It's funny that you're saying we need to fight to have peace.
I know, it's kind of
let's fight to have peace.
Well, like, push towards it, or
I would say that
within yourself, if nothing else.
Right. That's exactly what I was going to say. So let's say this. Let's say that if we want to take a little, I don't want to say message, that's terrible. Yeah. But if we want to look at a situation like this and say, well, is there something for me to think about here? One of the things to think about is, I don't think we have to do that to find our peace.
Yes.
I don't think we have to die to finally get somewhere.
That's exactly.
Yeah, that's what you want to say.
That's exactly what I'm trying to say. As always, you bring it down to a sentence.
So we need to be able to find it in our lives. And yet, when we find it, we need to say, if we do die, then maybe that has to be something that we accept.
That's right. And I think that possibly finding that peace within yourself is the thing that takes the sting and the fear out of death. Yeah. Just like you were sitting in Italy. You weren't afraid of death. You know what I'm trying to say?
At that moment, I was ready.
In that moment, you're in this state of peace that unfortunately, a lot of people are waiting for, like you're saying, it's that bridge to something
Well,
out there, and
yes.
you know what I mean, like, and you know, and maybe that is where a lot of people will, the only place they will find it. But
because they're building.
I would like to think that we can have it now, I guess.
Well, we do.
Yeah, I agree.
I think you and I do.
I know, but that we would,
or we strive to.
We strive to.
I shouldn't say we do.
I agree.
Like the reality is there is no past.
Yes.
And there is no future.
Mm-hmm. There only is now.
There's only the minute that you have.
And one of Shane's favorite words was carpe diem, seize the day, seize the moment, you know, and so,
yeah.
You know,
I would say that probably should be something we all do.
Yes.
But you know what bothers me about carpe diem or seize the moment is it gives, or it can be used to give people license to make decisions that are stupid.
I agree.
So the example would be, let's say somebody who says, well, I should get all my money and I should buy bubble gum and then I should just chew it all right now.
Yeah.
And I'm enjoying it. And then after the bubble gum's gone, now what?
Yeah.
I seized the day. And now I need to get more money and buy more gum, or what?
Yeah.
So to me, it's not about seizing the day in a way that sacrifices tomorrow. You still need to build a bridge, but it's just building a bridge in a direction that's not sacrificing the moment of building the bridge, right?
Yeah.
You know,
I know what you mean.
And you can't look back while you're going forward either.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's what struck me about when my friend died in 2007 was I'm looking back and thinking about those times, and I shouldn't do that. I should look forward. And you know, ironically, one of the other friends that I had who was also friends with the person who died, he phoned me up and he said, I'm coming to Germany on Friday.
Right.
And I knew why. I said, I know why you're coming.
Right.
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we had a great time. We went to Paris, and I think we had fun because our friend died. And
That's
how
right.
horrible and how awesome is that at the same time? It's sad that our friend passed away, but it's awesome that because our friend passed away, he gave us a week of fun that we maybe wouldn't have had otherwise.
Sure.
You know, because it made us go, hey, we've got to do.
Yeah. And that's the other thought, you know, as much as people go into a different mode when death is around, it also brings out a lot of good things in humanity. You know, it's a sensitivity, love. It's funny how people lay their swords down. You know what I mean? Like
You're thinking of like World War I-ish kind of stuff.
Well, I'm using it more of as a global, more of a bigger analogy of like, let's say we had a difference with each other, and like, I hate, you know, me and you, we had a gripe with each other.
Oh,
and our common friend died. It may very well we'd sit at the same table, and we would lay our swords down,
arguing about whose fence line is on whose line. Seems pretty pointless right now.
And I find that interesting that we do that in times like that. And again, it gets back to the earlier topic of, but why can't
we do it without that?
Without that,
well, you know why? It's pretty clear why.
What's that?
Well, those silly arguments distract us from thinking about the fact that we're all worm food already. We're already dead in a way,
right?
We are born to die. That's the only thing that we are born to do that is guaranteed
for everybody.
So we argue about silly things, and we collect silly things, and we do silly things as a form of distraction. And you might say, if we were at a root level, or if we were operating on a root level where the functions that we valued at the highest were the ones that had the most or had the weight that they most deserved in our lives. If your tree overhung my grass and it was dropping walnuts that were killing my grass, I wouldn't say, hey man, you know, I'm up nights worrying about my grass. I might say, you know what? I might get hit by a bus tomorrow, and who cares about my grass in a way? Yeah. I'll just go out and cut it, and it has bald patches, and I'm going to have a nice sandwich, and it's going to be awesome. Have you ever noticed whenever I talk about valuing the day, it's always a sandwich?
It's always a sandwich. I have noticed that.
Or food.
Yeah.
But I think food, can I just go to this?
Sure.
Food is literally one of those things that makes you love a moment that you have.
Yes, for sure.
And it doesn't have to. I know that you haven't always valued food, by the way.
Well, I don't, not in the same regard, but I enjoy food. I don't.
Remember our ice cream
I
talk?
probably don't. Yeah, I like ice cream in those moments, but I probably don't savor it in the same way as other people do, and I respect that and appreciate that.
What is it that you savor? Don't say cigarettes. What is it that you savor or love or enjoy in a moment that you fully, I hate saying this terminology, but I'm going to use it, that you fully commit to that moment? Like, what is something that you happen that you're fully participating in where you go, I am in this moment doing this thing, and this is the thing that I am loving at the maximum level right now? Don't get dirty.
No, I can't use the one, so...
You were going to say smoking.
But let's use the one...
You weren't going to say smoking.
Let's use what what would be associated, which is obviously a big fallacy, but it might be looking at a sunset or something like that.
Were you really going to say smoking?
And just sitting there.
But, you were.
But while I'm having a smoke while the sun goes down.
I am.
But we all know that smoke part snuck itself into the picture, the pretty picture.
Yeah, but you have to excise that, because that is a classic case of what's the word?
Romanticizing.
Substitution, sublimation. Oh, no, is where misattribution or something, I guess is what I'm saying. That you've collected together stimuli in the same place that give each other the same value, when one is the true value.
Yes. Yeah.
I take a break, I have a smoke.
Yeah,
the break is the thing.
Yeah, and that's obvious in a sense, because I used to enjoy the sunset before I smoked, so that...
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
This is shattering news.
This is profound. Deep. That's just in. You do not need to have
Ladies and gentlemen, the sunset is enjoyable without nicotine. Well, for me, one of those great things, I see what you've got up there. What have you got on your screen?
Where are you looking?
Right there on your screen.
Oh, I was totally fluke, whatever.
Because I was going to say travel.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Traveling places is one of those things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And another thing for me is going out into the forest.
Yeah.
When there are no mosquitoes.
Love that.
And those kinds of things are for me like full commit moments.
Yes, agreed.
When all your senses are doing the same thing at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, I had an experience like that this weekend, just sitting in the park on Mother's Day with my wife and my child for...
There you go.
3 or 4 hours. Maybe it's 3 hours, say. And that's all you're doing. That's it. We're just sitting here and go play on the swings for a bit. And
the sun is beating down on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's all you're doing. It's very relaxing. And, you wish you had more time like that, actually.
I wish that I had more time like that is exactly right. It doesn't have to be that.
Yeah.
But like that.
Yeah.
And I think part of the challenge is that you have to make more things like that.
Yes.
You have to find that moment in other things that you're doing.
Yes.
Funny enough, I doubt the entertainment value of this podcast is very high right now, but podcasting is one of those things where I think we both really enjoy the moment that we're in.
Oh, we do. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, it's very... you're just in it and you enjoy it, and
and then later
I actually forget about all the other things I have to do, which then of course once we're done I was like,
I wish you hadn't said that,
because I have some. And we probably should keep this one short anyway, because I do have some things to do after this, and I think we could talk more about this topic, but it's nice to talk about it today.
Well, I think it's good to talk about it today because it's almost like what you would talk about with him in a way, isn't it?
It is actually, yeah. This is like a Shameless Hussies episode here almost. And, and I mean, it's true. I will miss the fact that his Skype icon isn't going to light up,
Well,
and we won't have that dialogue.
But you'll be able to. But you can fill in his voice because you know exactly.
I do.
You know his voice.
And here's the thing, like what you're saying earlier. I'm so glad that we have the technology. That we were able to have that dialogue and have not just audio, but have visual and facial expressions. And
the real sadness would have been if you hadn't done those podcasts.
Yeah, if we were sitting here today going, damn, we always talked about doing a podcast.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
you wouldn't have been as close to him. Like, look at the difference. It would be like you'd hear some sad news about a cousin. Right. You're like, oh, well, that's a sad thing that happened.
Yeah.
But you got to, you know, I don't want to say peek behind the curtain, but you got to participate in a way with someone who had some thinking and some decision making going on at a very deep level.
Yeah.
And you got to be a part of that you know, see something that a lot of people don't get a chance to see in someone as he's at a big moment in his life and in his mind.
And I was going to save some of the, I will be doing I will do a final Hustle Cast or Shameless Hussies podcast in the near future. But I think of the first podcast we did together and what we both laughed at. So it's like I think we ended the podcast with saying, "Oh, I guess we're opening the bedroom door again," and the joke being that when we were kids, you know, that's what we did. Me and his brother Aaron and Shane, we would just lay on the floor, and probably like you did with your friends, looking at the stars, where I'm just talk all night about aliens and monsters.
Oh,
and,
yeah, totally.
You know, all that kind of stuff, and like I wonder what's out there, and all that, all those kind of questions when we were kids, and when we hooked up and started talking, that's what it felt like again. You know, we've all had some life experience and been through some things, but we're still asking some of the same questions. Okay,
well,
where are the monsters coming from? Is there such thing as aliens? Or
how far is forever?
Blah, blah, all that stuff.
Well, let me throw this out there that I remember distinctly in a moment like that saying out loud to a friend, "I wish I was dead." Not because I want to be dead. I just want to see.
Yeah, man, I understand.
And
that
now
completely.
he sees.
Yeah.
So
whatever
happened after, he knows, he has the answer.
I know, and it's I don't know if I made the deal with him or not, but we'll see, I guess.
That
it's like, if you go first, you got to come and talk to me.
I've made that deal with somebody once.
Yeah, me too.
It didn't happen.
And but here's the question: is it because it's not real, or is it because there's actually no way?
We're getting so deep.
You know, so we'll save that for another.
We're getting so deep into a territory that some people want us to go into.
Yeah, I know.
Just for those who don't know, and perhaps there are no people listening who don't know, there is great pressure for us to talk about paranormal things in this podcast.
We should talk about some of those things and pursue them. Well,
I'll tell you what. Let's end it by saying this. I didn't know your cousin. Wherever he is, I know he's happy and he's at peace and he's learned whatever it is he wanted to learn.
Yeah.
And you know, if we all learn it at the end, then we're all going to be part of something at that time. And
agreed.
It's just something that it's nothing unusual. Put it that way.
No,
whatever he knows is the thing that we're all going to know at some point.
Yeah.
So the sad part isn't that it happened. The sad part is when it happened.
That's right.
Yeah. We're all going to be a piece of the same something, whether it be back into the earth or up into the sky or whatever. So,
and I would agree with that 100%. And you know, and I send my love and thoughts to family and you know,
always.
It's like it sucks, and but I do have that peace as well. There's just this sense of peace, and you know, Shane, I'll miss you on the podcast, but we're gonna keep on fighting,
keep on podcasting,
and keep on podcasting for sure.
Well, thanks for coming out for FauxPop FauxCast 16. Entertainment, maybe lower for some, but you got to talk about something sometimes, and we just did it. So can't always be funny.
Nope.
And even sometimes when we want to be, we can't be. Apologies for that too.
Yeah, and we'll talk about this more, I think, at another time, because there's lots of
well, thoughts. I think you guys are going to talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay, signing off. Hustler, Lab Coat Guy, Mark Hussey, Randall Lobb. You can at the Lab Coat Guy at Twitter, at Hustle Talk at Twitter. Here. He's going to do it. There it is.
Oh, that's the wrong
That's
one.
For both of us at FauxPop.tv. At Hustle Talk is Mark. At the Lab Coat Guy, me, Randall Lobb. And send us a message. Tell us what you think about what we said or what we thought. Tell us how wrong we are.
Sure.
Tell us how right we are. It's all good.
That's right. Peace to all.
See ya.